Going to see Cavalera, I expected it to be fun, and I expected to headbang, but I did not expect the bloody and gory show that I got. Let me tell you what happened. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of HeavyMetalPhilosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. I've been excited for weeks to finally see Cavalera. And I was even more excited to get a photo pass and cover the show on behalf of Metal Digest. And also, Exhumed is on this bill. And prior to this, I liked Exhumed. You know, I love death metal and I like that band. But now that I've seen them live, now I'm a fan. Because even as excited as I was, this show blew away my expectations. So here we go. The first band that hit the stage was In Sight. Now I've got some experience here. The opening act on a bill that features a living legend plus some death metal veterans, that is a tough job. I know that for a fact. And unfortunately, not everybody that came to see Cavalera showed up early enough to see In Sight. Y'all missed out on a really great band. Probably less than half of the people overall that came were there early enough to see the opening band In Sight, but the band still gave it energy as if the place was packed. That's how you do it. And you could tell first couple of songs the audience didn't really know who they were, but it didn't take long for them to win them over and get them moving. And that's the job of the opening band, Mission Accomplished. To me, their sound was kind of like if you mixed Pantera with Lamb of God, but gave it sort of a biohazard kind of an attitude, really heavy groovy stuff. And the singer was supremely charismatic. He took an indifferent crowd and turned them into an excited crowd. And by the end of their set, they were actually doing what he told them to do, which is one of the most difficult things for a band to accomplish when nobody's heard of you. They're not there to see you. So the fact that they pulled that off is very impressive to me. They knew the assignment and they nailed it. But there is one thing that I did find a little funny. I bought merch because, like I just said, I'm very impressed with the band. They've got a new fan in me. And when I went up to the merch booth, on the back of one of their shirts, it says, "No gimmicks, no triggers, no backing tracks, just metal." Which I found a little bit funny because several of their songs had ambient intros that played before the band started playing. Now, technically, it is true that the band didn't play 2 backing tracks, but those intros are tracks. So this whole, elitism and debate about if bands use tracks or not, I really don't understand it. Obviously, I don't think it would be cool if a band lip-synced and air guitared, but does any band really do that? I have not found a band that does that. It's just that they use tracks to accentuate what they are playing. And those intros are tracks. So where exactly is the line of acceptable use of tracks? I don't know. Anyway, the next band up was Exhumed, and this is where it got wild. Now, before I talk about all the blood and theatrics of Exhumed show, I just want to share something cool with you that happened in between In Sight and Exhumed set. While Exhumed was setting up, this dude walks up to me and he says, "Hey, I watch your YouTube," and gave me a fist bump. Now, I don't live in Atlanta. I don't know hardly anyone in Atlanta, so this was just a random person at the same metal show that I was at. I was not expecting that at all, and it really made my day. It was really nice to be recognized for doing this instead of, for looking like somebody, which is what I'm used to. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Justin. All right, so back to the show. Now, I've never seen Exhumed live before, and like I said, now that I have, I'm a huge fan. I knew about them before, I had listened to them before, and I've seen some of their music videos, so I knew that they were like a horror, slasher type death metal band. But what I didn't know is that they would incorporate that into their live show. They didn't just play brutal music and headbang. And I mean, that's enough for me. I don't expect more than that. That's all I want out of metal. But they did more. They had this horror movie kind of mascot that came out and introduced the band before they started playing and got the crowd hype a little bit. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But what I didn't know was that that guy would become such a part of the show. It would be like a production. And let me just say, before we get on to the theatrics, Ross, the bass player, has the deepest and lowest growls I've ever heard live. I just wanted to say how impressed I am with the bands playing live before I talk about all the theatrics, because that's what's most important. So they're playing this crushing death metal, and at one point there's like this guitar solo spot, and the mascot comes back out, and he's got a guitar with a metal plate on it and a side grinder. So the lead guitar player is shredding, and then this guy comes out there with his guitar and hits it with the grinder, and sparks are flying all over the place. It was a show. Something about the smell of hot steel in the air accentuated the vibe of the death metal as it's being played. At another point, he came out with a chainsaw and he was revving it at the audience and at me. I got a cool picture of that, but the real climax was when he came out later and he had a severed head and he was using it to pour blood out of the neck onto the audience. It was gruesome and awesome. Check out these pics I took. Then after all of that, it was time for the legend to come out. And I was super excited to finally see the Cavalera brothers in the flesh. But I have to admit, after seeing all of those theatrics, I was a little concerned. I was like, man, how do you follow that? Well, I mean, listen, Max is a pro and he came out there and crushed that room. It's no accident that he's been a part of so many titanic bands, Sepultura, Soulfly, Cavalera, Nailbomb. Everything he touches is awesome because he's good at this. If you've been subscribed to the show for a while, you will have heard me say many times that the current generation of death metal bands are so groovy. Well, a lot of that credit needs to go to the influence of Max Cavalera. Their songs, and especially live, are a masterclass in dynamics. They just know how to take a real simple chug and make it the grooviest and most crushing thing you've heard. And then they know how to follow that up with another riff that elevates it even further. They also pulled out an old school rock and roll move that really helped out their show. After a good while of playing, they would just leave the stage and the lights would dim and like these metal images would play on the screens, and then this really tense music would play over the PA and just building up the anticipation in the audience. It was palpable in the air as we're sitting there like coiled like a snake. And then they would come back out and the audience would explode with enthusiasm, just like as if it was the first time Max came out on stage. It just really reset and re-amplified the energy in the room. Simple, but supremely effective. Another thing I loved about the show is, you listen to the music and it's very angry sounding, and you look at the lyrics and they're very blasphemous, but it was all smiles on the stage and in the crowd. Max just loves metal, and you could see it on his face. He's done this a million times, but you can tell he still loves doing it. He was just up there smiling, and that in turn made the audience smile. It was just so much love for metal. It felt like a celebration. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you buy a ticket to this show if it comes anywhere near you. I had an absolute blast, and that brings us to the riff of the week. And I can think of no better riff to do the riff of the week, considering what we just talked about, than War Soup by Incite featuring Max Cavalera. I mean, it's just too perfect. But before that riff plays, let me know what you think in the comments if you're on YouTube. Hit me up on social media if you're listening audio only. All the links to my social media is in the description. And if you had a good time, I definitely did. please hit the like button. And once again, if you're on YouTube and you want to hear me talk and see my pictures about the last photo gig I did featuring Deathclock and Baby Metal, you can just click right here. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.